Hi, and welcome to the latest edition of the Legislative Report. I'm Representative Jason Ortitay. Today we'll be talking with a lot of different people from the law enforcement community. With me right now I have Washington County District Attorney Gene Vitone. Gene, thank you for being with me today.
Thank you for inviting me, Representative.
Over the last few years, even since I've been out of high school, particularly in this area, there has been an increasing drug problem. There's been a substance abuse issue as well. I'd just like to get your thoughts on how we're tackling that problem.
Well, it is a big problem in Washington County. I've been with the District Attorney's Office for about 16 years now. And traditionally what we saw was a problem with cocaine, and some marijuana, and early on in my career some amphetamines. But lately the biggest problem that's happening in Washington County has been heroin. I was a paramedic for a number of years, handled thousands of ambulance calls. We never had a fatal accidental overdose that I ever handled. But when I came into office in 2012, I noticed from Coroner Warco's report that we had 42 overdose deaths in 2011. That's new. That's a big problem. It's not just the overdose deaths, it's the ER visits. And obviously what concerns me is the crime that's related to the need to acquire heroin. So we're working on addressing the problem right now, and obviously we can do it through investigation and prosecution of the drug offenders, but the larger issue is what do you do with the folks that do end up getting enmeshed in the criminal justice system? And that's something we've been working on.
Gene, could you talk to us more about the drug task force that you've formed?
Yeah, we have a county-wide drug task force. It's composed of a director who's an individual that's had many years of working in undercover drug operations, and we utilize municipal police departments from the various departments throughout the county that are interested in doing that type of work. It works out really well because it gives those individuals that are participating an opportunity to learn from our director, Rick Luth, and also to initiate their own operations. We're the largest undercover drug operation in Washington County. We've emphasized lately going county-wide with our investigations, and we've had numerous drug arrests and search warrants served in the city of Washington, down in the valley, over in Burgettstown, and just recently we were able to arrest an individual with 65 bricks of heroin. That's about $30,000 worth of heroin in McDonald. So it's working out very well, but that's only one part of the puzzle.
Right, and just to kind of give us a number of how big this has been, would you be able to give us a number on how much money and drugs that you say you've been able to collect since you've been in office?
Overall, as far as drugs, I don't have those figures figures right at my fingertips. But I can tell you the cases that we're generating, we're up about 1,000 cases in the last 7 years, primarily due to heroin and prescription drugs. And I recently just did a statistical analysis of the criminal complaints to see what drugs are being used by our criminal offenders. And what surprised me was about 1/3 of our cases are as a result of alcohol misuse, but the other 1/3 is roughly, it's heroin and it's prescription drugs, which is essentially, the prescription drugs are essentially pharmaceutical grade opiates that are similar to heroin, and that's why people get hooked.
Now, we all know that drugs never really stay within county lines or in state lines or even international lines.
Sure.
How are you working with state, local, and even federal agencies to help with this?
Well, one of the things that was really good is that the director who's in charge of my task force now has a good reputation in the law enforcement community, and as does my chief county detective, Jim McElhaney. So we've been able to develop relationships with Brooke County, with West Virginia agencies to handle the Panhandle and also the northwestern part of Washington County. But we've also a relationship that I've really grown to enjoy, and I'm really happy that we have, is with the United States Attorney David Hickton. He's willing to offer us assistance. In fact, he just designated one of my assistant district attorneys a special assistant U.S. attorney so that we can take more violent felons federal as opposed to state, because the sentences are so much more severe in federal court. So the hope is that you get the dangerous guys out of the area, you get them incarcerated for a long period of time, and you decrease the amount of violent crime associated with drugs.
Well, while we're talking about that, what are some of the successes you've had? I know we talked about a couple of the local issues where you found the 65 bricks, but let's build upon that. Tell me a little bit more about the successes of this.
Well, we've had a lot of success in investigation and prosecution. We've made significant inroads into the valley with heroin distribution, but I also would be remiss if I didn't talk about what we're doing with offenders, because the bulk of the offenders that we're seeing out of the 3,300 cases, they're nonviolent. They're addicts. They have a drug problem and it needs to be addressed. And we simply can't incarcerate ourselves out of this problem. It just costs too much money to incarcerate people, and we don't have the space to put these people. Plus, it's counterproductive. What they need is they need to get into treatment and real rehabilitation so that hopefully they can become productive members of society again. So we've been working on diversion programs. We have one of the first drug courts in the state of Pennsylvania. We established it in 2005. Recently, we've just started working on a diversion program at the magistrate level so that nonviolent drug offenders can hook up with the Washington Drug and Alcohol Commission and get into treatment. And we put them on a strict program of community work service, drug testing, and attending treatment so that they can address their problem. And we take them at their word, because they all want to reform when they're in front of a magistrate and they're charged with a crime. So we take them up at their word and we say, okay, show us. And if they're able to show us, then they get a break. If they can't, then we have to do something else, and we get a little bit deeper into our system.
Now, we're almost at the end of our time here, but
Sure.
I wanted to ask you, we've talked about what the problems are and some of the things that we have in place, but what would you like to see done at the state level to help combat some of this drug abuse in our state? Well,
one of the big issues talking to the treatment providers is that you need to have the funding available to provide treatment. Incarceration right now is costing anywhere, the figure I keep hearing for state is about $40,000 per inmate. I think at the county level it's about $24,000 a year to incarcerate somebody. People do need to have access to treatment. One of the drugs they're seeing now that works really well is called Vivitrol. And that drug is extremely expensive, but it does work as a good opiate blocker, and they've had good success with it. So heroin addiction treatment is a very involved process. It takes a lot of time and money, and that's one thing that we're going to have to find a way to address.
Well, Gene, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit down with us today.
No problem, Jason. Thank you.
Looking forward to seeing more good things out of your office.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Gene.
Jason.
I appreciate it. And we'll be right back after a short break with Officer Scrow.
Did you know that Fort Indiantown Gap, located in Lebanon County, is home to Pennsylvania's only Veterans Memorial? C.J. Frederick of Westchester, Bucks County, submitted the winning design that now honors those men and women who have sacrificed their lives in defending this great country. Dedicated to the Commonwealth on October 7, 2001, the Veterans Memorial is surrounded by freestanding walls and houses an amphitheater, which can accommodate large crowds during an event. Strategically placed in the front of the amphitheater is a tomb that reminds visitors of those who gave their lives protecting the freedoms of this nation. The design suggests a war-damaged structure in which Frederick wanted to impress upon those visiting the horrific arena of war. Now you know.
Did you know that the state capitol is not only the epicenter of the Commonwealth's governing bodies, but was once home to 390 preserved Civil War flags? During the war, it was customary for each state to furnish their regiments in battle with flags representing their contribution to the Union Army. After the war, Pennsylvania's military department was responsible for collecting the flags, and in 1872 they were reverently housed in the Capitol. Following the completion of construction on the new Capitol building in 1914, the Civil War flags were moved to the Capitol Rotunda. They were kept untouched in custom-made flag cases until 1982, when the Capitol Preservation Committee initiated its Save the Flags project. Throughout the years, dust and long-term vertical display of the flags had begun to devastate the brittle silk fabric and painted designs. The flags were removed by local textile conservators and were repaired and preserved in storage units that protect the relics from light, dust, and excessive handling. Now you know.
Welcome back. I'm joined with Officer Scrow, and today we're going to talk about Impact Teen Drivers. It's a wonderful program that's going on here in South Fayette. Officer, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Can you tell me a little more about the program?
Impact Teen Drivers is a program that was developed in California by Dr. Kelly Browning and in conjunction with the California Highway Patrol. And the purpose of the program is to reduce teen crashes due to distracted driving or inexperienced decisions behind the wheel.
That's definitely one of the hardest things about today is you have lots of kids, everybody's got their cell phones. I'm one of them. We're out there, so you think it's really quick at a stoplight, and then all of a sudden it turns green, and it is a much needed program, specifically in this area. And just on that note, it's a problem, it's an awareness problem, and that's always been the issue with any type of issue, whether it's drug related or otherwise. But can you tell me a little bit more about what you guys are doing to bring more awareness to the program? I know you guys are having some seminars and some meetings, but what else, in addition to that, what else are you guys doing?
Well, each year in the U.S., we lose about 4,000 teen drivers a year in vehicle crashes. Another 400,000 are seriously injured. And this program is to bring the awareness that all these distractions, whether it's a cell phone, a loud radio, or even passengers in your car, they take your focus off of driving, and for that split second, something can happen.
Well, what can we do as parents and members in the community to really support this message and get it out there?
Well, I think you said it just a little bit ago. We need to lead by example. And 16% of teens right now say that they have seen their parents text and drive. We need to change that. We ourselves need to lead, show our teens, hey, this is not the right thing to do, because driving is a big responsibility. It takes all of our concentration, and those seconds that we're texting or trying to make a phone call, it takes our focus off of the road.
And we live in a society now where it's multitasking. You're constantly in a hurry, whether you're late to go to school, late to go to work. You're putting your makeup on, you're reading the paper. I mean, I've seen somebody reading the paper, putting on lipstick, and talking on their cell phone all at the same time. And we all know that's not safe, but how do we discourage young people in particular? And how do we get that to resonate with them that, hey, you're doing something that could really cause, could end up in death or bodily harm to yourself? What can we do to help that really set into their heads?
Well, with this program, and it is evidence-based, we give them that evidence. We give them the actual facts. We also give them real-life stories of people who have lost loved ones. And they give their story, and they tell what happened in that accident. Just think of this. In the 3 or 4 seconds it takes to send a text message at 60 miles per hour, you travel 100 yards, a football field. Go 100 yards with your eyes closed. It's not an easy task. You can't do it. You don't know where the vehicle's going to go. These are the facts that we try to present to the teens and show them that this stuff doesn't work.
Well, when you're out and about and you're talking to people about this program, what resources are you guys using? What's available to the parents? Can you talk a little bit about that so we can help our kids make good decisions when they're out there?
Right. ImpactTeenDrivers.org, JustDrivePA.org, and one of the biggest helps with my programs is AAA. AAA has so many resources, and they reach out and touch so many people. You can get so much information off of their website, and they have contacts for everywhere. You can hit their links, and it'll take you to different websites, and it'll give you that information that you need to know. Statistical information too.
Well, just to kind of ask you about a few numbers, particularly related to South Fayette, are you seeing a lot more traffic stops with people with cell phones in their hands? I know we have the construction out here on 50 and people are speeding, and we're trying to keep construction workers safe on top of that. But are you seeing an increase in people being pulled over for texting while they're driving?
Yeah, we certainly do. We have the texting law now, and you are not allowed to be texting on a phone. It is a hard thing to prove, but if you have your phone and you are using it, that's grounds for us to pull you over, and those stops do get made.
Excellent. Now, if you had to sum up this program and just put together a couple takeaways for us and for the kids out there, what would it be?
I think that the biggest part of this program here is just to tell people that these distractions take your focus off of the road. Driving a vehicle takes a lot of concentration. There are so many factors. You have to pay attention to road signs and stop signs and traffic lights. You have to pay attention to what other drivers are doing. And if you're texting or making a phone call, that's just that much of your brain power that's not on driving. And it takes a lot. And just a split second is all it takes to get yourself into a very serious situation.
And a lot of times, and maybe you can back me up on this, people are sending very short text messages like, hey, I'll meet you here, or, I'll see you in 5 minutes or so. I mean, a message like that really isn't of great importance really needs to be put in perspective when you're measuring and weighing your risk here. Do I want to send a 3-letter text to really risk my life over? And it's not just risking your life, you're risking financial resources too. You're putting your own vehicle at risk, which is thousands of dollars. And I know you can't put a price on somebody's life, but when you're looking at texting, and this is the message that I try to tell the kids out there, you have to really weigh your risk here. Is that text message really worth you losing a leg? Is it worth being in the hospital for 3 months? Is it worth losing that football scholarship? Right. And I think that helps put things into perspective. And I know you guys, go ahead.
And when you send a text, that's only half of it, because you already had to receive the text. So just remember, you're reading that first before you send that reply.
Absolutely. It's a tough thing to handle. I know that you guys are going to be out there in full force. I hope that the message really resonates with the kids out there and even the adults who are doing it now.
Right.
But I really appreciate the work that you guys are doing.
Well, thank you.
And I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us today.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. And we'll be right back after this short break.
Did you know that Violet Oakley was the first female artist to receive a large commission for artwork done in a United States Capitol building? In 1902, Joseph Houston, designer and architect for the 3rd Harrisburg Capitol building, commissioned Violet Oakley to paint murals for the governor's reception room. He believed that Oakley's contribution would add interest to the building and act as an encouragement of women of the state. Prior to beginning her work for the Capitol, Oakley set out to England to conduct research for her murals. Upon return, she decided to center her artwork on William Penn and the founding of Pennsylvania. Oakley made sure that Penn's ideals of justice and peace could be seen throughout her work. In 1906, she completed 13 murals titled The Founding of the State of Liberty Spiritual and was placed in sequential order around the governor's reception room. These murals were some of the first to be installed in the Capitol. When Edwin Austin Abbey, another artist for the Capitol, died in 1911, Oakley was offered another opportunity to create murals for the unfinished Senate and Supreme Court chambers. Her work on the Senate murals, including International Understanding, was completed by 1919. Oakley then completed the Supreme Court murals, including the Divine Law, by 1927. Oakley is said to be the principal artist for the Capitol, with a total of 43 murals on display. She remains one of the greatest muralists in the United States. Now you know.
Welcome back. I'm joined by Cheryl Andrews of the Washington County Drug and Alcohol Commission. Cheryl, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you could be here. I want to talk a little bit about what you do. So if you could kind of give us a summary of your job and the good things that you've been doing.
Actually, we're the Washington Drug and Alcohol Commission, and we hold the contract with the state to provide treatment, intervention, and prevention services to the residents of Washington County. We are a 501c3, 3C, I guess.
There's a lot of different designations.
Yeah. So we're a nonprofit. We are actually independent from the county structure. The county, we dissolved from the county about 12 years ago, but we have held the contract with the state since that time. So that being said, basically we receive dollars from the state to provide services to the residents of Washington County, and those services are for people who are underinsured or who have no insurance, and we offer free services as far as prevention and intervention.
Well, what kind of services and resources do you provide the citizens of Washington County?
In our office, we actually are a functional unit in the sense that we provide case management services. So we provide level of care assessments for people who are in need of any kind of drug and alcohol treatment services, but we refer out for treatment. We do not provide treatment. We have another unique service in-house. It's called Certified Recovery Specialist Services. So they're actually recovery services for individuals, non-treatment needs, if you would, people that maybe have gone through a treatment episode but need help finding a job or filling out applications or whatever that may be. So recovery support services are a huge part of what we do for people seeking services. We provide prevention services throughout all of Washington County. We provide direct service. We have 6 staff members in our prevention department. We provide services to all 14 school districts and the communities that surround those districts. One thing that I really want to highlight is, since I have been there for the last 3 years, we do a lot of mobile case management. What we have found is that not everybody knocks on our door and comes to our facility. We found that we need to go where they are. So we have mobile case management that is directly supplied to our hospitals in Washington County. So overdose victims or people that are showing up in the emergency departments that need help are connected to our office. We have a designated case manager to children and youth services. We have dedicated services to our criminal justice system in various programs with the court and the jail, and we have a dedicated mobile case manager for our students in the school districts through the Student Assistance Program.
How many people would you say, on a yearly basis that you help and serve who go into use your services or your programs?
Our services, as far as those seeking treatment, I want to say that we did like 2,400 screenings. That doesn't mean that all of those individuals actually went on to treatment, but many of them do. So we serve a huge part of the community, but our resources are limited.
Of course, and are you seeing a rise in applications over the last 3 years?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's always the hardest thing is when you don't see any additional funding and you're seeing it increase.
Absolutely.
It's tough to maintain.
Yes.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, there's a 3-stemmed approach: intervention, prevention, and treatment.
Right.
Can you expand on that?
As far as, we're doing prevention from birth till you die, basically. So we're in every aspect of the community. When we talk prevention, we talk evidence-based type curricula and practices. So in the classroom, we're starting very young. We're not teaching them naturally what heroin is, but we're teaching them about positive choices. And if they want to be a productive member of society when they grow up, then they need to make good choices when they're young. So we're starting at the very young ages. We found through our needs assessment, if you would, that we were actually doing programs in the schools a little too late because the age of onset for trying a drug is now between 10 and 12 years old. So we found that we needed to bring the grade level down. So we're in the elementary level. So that's prevention from that standpoint. Intervention would be, just as we talked about with with those school students, intervening when they are identified as having a need or they're high risk for drug use. So that is where we've placed people in the school to assess that student. And one unique thing that we do in Washington County, we subcontract with treatment providers. We actually provide treatment in each of the school districts so that this retains kids in treatment. We don't have to worry about transportation needs to get to treatment. So we're intervening and putting ancillary services around them when they need it right from the start. And I would say that our mobile case management is doing intervention too. So then that all leads to if a person needs treatment, and we kind of talked about that process.
Is there a specific age demographic where this is really spiking? I know we talked about we weren't
Right.
quite getting to them early enough, but is it are teenagers? Is it more of when people get into their 20s? Where is the bigger problem?
It's pretty much 18 to 25-year-olds. As far as what's happening is the trend is that we're in a prescription drug epidemic. So, we have doctors who are writing scripts for pain medication. We're treating pain as a fifth vital sign. So everybody wants to treat pain. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are originally prescribed legitimately pain medication become addicted. When they become addicted, then they move along the continuum. When they can't get a script anymore, they turn to heroin. And heroin is cheaper. So by the time they reach us, it's usually they're using heroin, they're in that age category. I will say we are now beginning to see people in their early 30s that are coming in addicted to heroin, shooting heroin, and it all stems back to some point of them receiving a legitimate script for pain, an injury, whatever it may be, and they end up on heroin.
Well, the burning question I have is what can we do as a community? What can we do locally? What can we do in Harrisburg to really address this problem?
Well, I will say as of last year, I think legislators are hearing us. Act 139 was passed. Act 139 allows for third-party prescribing of naloxone or Narcan, which means that family members can now get an antidote for an overdose death to reverse that overdose. And the other piece of that is the Good Samaritan law, which I'm sure our district attorney may have spoken about the Good Samaritan law, but it allows for some immunity for someone to call 911 and possibly not be prosecuted for being involved with a drug event. So that is huge. The other huge event, or the other huge thing that's happening statewide is legislators are recognizing this is an epidemic, and our funds that we receive from the state simply aren't enough. And they're looking for ways to look to the private sector to put money into helping us purchase Narcan and helping us with initiatives.
Cheryl, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the time.
Sure.
And thank you to everybody who joined and watched our episode and program today. I hope you were able to learn as much as I did. It's always great when you can get experts in the room and see what's going on in our community. I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.